because this is the policy, and it's February 5th.
Turn your TV off now.
And if they play as bad as last year, none of us will get it. Anyway, okay. This, marriage ceremony policy that you see, it's, when I was told about it by the Board of Selectmen, it seemed like something that, oh, you just issue a memo, it's gonna take 2 sentences. I guess they don't do those. It has to be a policy. So the point that the Board of Selectmen was making was that there are some people who are employed by the town that are also notary publics, so they can perform, they're licensed to perform marriage ceremonies. Other towns as well, not just Acton, I've seen notices in the paper, they don't want employees getting a stipend for conducting a marriage ceremony while they are drawing a weekly paycheck from the town, double dipping in essence. So, this is short and to the point. They really don't want to use the town hall business offices because they're small and they're used for other things. The marriage ceremonies can take a few minutes or a while. So that's really, for the size of the building and the number of employees we have here, it's not the best place to do it. However, this hall is available. So that's all I've said, is that if you're an employee and you're also a notary public, you may not conduct marriage ceremonies during your scheduled work hours. Anybody in the town can reserve this election hall for any time that they want. That's been the
But
case.
this doesn't say in the town hall. Does that mean residents may have to reserve the election hall? No, but I mean, it doesn't, the second sentence,
They can reserve this election hall, not the business offices.
For any, they can reserve this for
but,
anything they want.
but
Right.
is the point that the employee cannot conduct the service during open business hours of the town? In other words,
Yeah, if
as
it's
a,
their scheduled work hour.
they
okay,
cannot do the ceremony.
Yeah, because you don't want people to get paid twice to do the same thing. You can only do one job at a time.
Okay, so regardless of whether it's in there or in here, if it's regular scheduled working hours for the town hall, they cannot perform
No,
the
just a
ceremony.
notary. If they want to come in here at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon and have the wedding, and a priest is coming in here, they can do that.
But the town employee that's a notary cannot do it.
If the town
if
hall
they're
is
working.
open for business,
Yeah.
and they're scheduled to work,
Mhm.
then they can't be a notary conducting a marriage ceremony at the same time they're drawing a salary from the town.
I'd like to propose that we get rid of the who are notary publics part. What if they're an ordained minister and they're working at the town hall?
You're right, it would be the same.
So if you just said town employees are not permitted to conduct marriage ceremonies, I think that would cover a lot more.
Because you can get a waiver to conduct a ceremony for one day.
Okay. Or do we want to say notary publics and/or ordained ministers?
Well, there's also the special dispensation.
Right.
That are town.
Just say town employees.
Just say town employees are not permitted to conduct marriage ceremonies.
Okay. Things are never as simple as I
That's right.
want them to
Nothing's as
be.
easy as it looks.
Wait a minute, let's think
See,
about
this is the trouble with dealing with a committee.
Wait a minute.
If I was a committee of one,
You just put it in.
okay.
And then some
so-
ordained minister
I'm
would
not
get
sure
left.
that it shouldn't say notary public because no one else would be able to perform the
An ordained
ceremony.
minister,
What if Melissa Marquis gets a job here?
she's not ordained yet.
Who's she?
An Acton resident. She's not ordained yet? I thought she was ordained. Oh, next month, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so it shouldn't
Town
be explicit,
employees.
the town employees.
Are not permitted to conduct marriage ceremonies during their scheduled work hours.
Right.
Yeah. So we're removing who are notary publics.
Right. Good, good, we're done, yes.
Like 10 minutes. I have a question. Residents may, however, can you put, it kind of sounds like an afterthought.
What is?
That's what.
Well, no, and the reason it's an afterthought is the more I considered it, I thought, I didn't want people thinking that, when I say town hall, it's the business office side and the election hall, since it's all in building.
Right.
So what would you prefer?
I don't know, are permitted to reserve the election hall, or, I don't know, may, however,
Is
just
that-
kind of.
But this
What's the
doesn't
technical term
say
for
in the
this?
town
Election
hall. This
No,
doesn't
it
say
doesn't.
anything about the business offices, it just says employees are not permitted to conduct marriage ceremonies during their scheduled work hours.
Correct.
That's right, so even though this hall is available,
Anywhere, they can't leave work and go and do a marriage ceremony down at Joe Schmo's,
no, for instance,
They're
at
working.
Willie's
If you're-
restaurant.
if you're talking about
Iron
the
Tails, you think?
I need
If
to-
you're
Details here.
a town employee, and you're also a notary, or an ordained minister, and you work over there on the business side, you cannot take a break and say, I gotta do a wedding ceremony over here in the election hall.
Because then you're gonna come in and wanna pay your excise tax, and nobody's gonna be there.
To me, to,
It's a 4-line, 3-line.
no, you thought it was gonna be easy, not so
I,
easy.
thank God we started
To
with
me,
this.
it doesn't anywhere on here say that the reason for it is that you don't want the town employee doing it in the business offices of the town.
But that's not the reason.
The point is the person's not doing the job if they're in, if
If
they're
you're
somewhere
paying for one
else.
job and you're doing another job.
What if they took a vacation day? They could still do
Then
it.
that's scheduled work
Then that's
time.
not their scheduled work, yeah.
Okay. I think it should somewhere in there say in the town hall offices. But
Well,
that's just my,
What if they get married at the church next door? Is she allowed to leave on her work schedule and go to the congregational church and perform a ceremony?
no.
And does it matter where they get married?
Well, what if she took a, personal hour or
Then it's
something?
not during their
Then it's not
scheduled
scheduled
work.
work time.
But part of the point is that they don't want it done in the offices.
No, that's not the point.
No, the main
That's not
point,
the
and
point
the
at
only,
all.
the only point that was made to me was, we don't want people double dipping. It was as concise as that. We don't.
What day does the town hall open late? Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay. Say Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, somebody wanted to get married, and Jen took them downstairs to the room downstairs where we've been a couple of times. They could do that, because Jen's not working.
And she can do that as the
As a notary.
notary public.
Right. And she can do it downstairs in the town hall. That's where they want to do it.
And it's not being a function of the town that's doing it?
Right.
It's a
If you're- if
function
you're-
of
if you're-
her as a notary, as that person, as a notary public,
Yes.
not as a town employee.
That's correct. The other thing is, when the business offices, if you will, are not open to the public for services, that hall gets locked.
Okay, and are other public functions allowed to be done in other parts of the building other than in here?
We are.
No, other
we're
parts of
committed.
the building.
No, if you want to reserve space for, a family reunion, for the Lions Club,
Oh.
you schedule it with Lorraine
Yeah,
for this hall.
yeah. But it can be in another hall too, like, because it just,
There is no-
downstairs. Because I know, one time they were having a meeting in here,
Oh,
and we had,
yeah.
we had.
But you can only go
Roll
downstairs
association meeting
if
downstairs.
you have a key.
Right, somebody lets
You're
you
only-
in.
Yeah, well, you have to schedule it, the
Typically-
same thing.
I know, but I don't know that they use that hall down there as somebody can reserve it.
Only for a function or something.
Yeah.
We may have
I
only
don't think
used
so,
it because they had
it's
something here.
It's essentially a business office. You have to go through the business office, the planning board, the zoning board, code enforcement. So,
Yeah, not that,
So-
but I think we had scheduled this, and they needed it for a bigger function.
right,
for
there
something.
were two committees
And
going
so
at the
they,
same
yeah,
time.
so they asked us to do
So what would you prefer the last sentence to read?
I don't know, maybe it's just me. If you want to leave it, that's fine.
Well, no, I mean,
It just sounds like it.
I'm open to,
I would just say are permitted to, or are able to, or may,
Just get rid of
You know, like,
Yeah, maybe the however is,
you know, okay. Residents may reserve the election hall.
Or are permitted, the same as the second sentence. Second sentence is not permitted, so maybe.
Well, no, I think I like the word reserve because that means they have to
have
go
to reserve, right?
and see somebody
Okay.
and get their name down for, you know.
So
might
just
be other
take out
people
however.
Already ahead of them.
Can we go back to the first paragraph?
Can we go back to the title?
You know, I like you three a lot better. All right, are we good here?
Hey,
We're done.
everything should be this easy.
All right.
No, I should say for us, it should be that easy.
What are we doing?
Well, I'll be real liberal here. I'll let you pick. We can do the computer policy, or we can do the public information request.
Are we
Can we
going
do the
to,
public information?
are you gonna make the changes to this and everything and give it to?
Okay, do you have your old Indian revised copies
I'm
to
bringing
look?
only new stuff with me.
That's not what the memo said.
Oh, sorry. I printed it and that was, sorry.
No,
Demerits.
we're talking about the public access one.
Yeah.
You two didn't vote yet. Which one did you want to do?
He said public information, and I'm a
Right.
follower, so I'll go with that.
All right, you're overruled.
I'm taking my stuff, I'm going home. I came home with cold for this.
Yes, you did.
Could have stayed home
You
then.
have to stay here and suffer.
What were the choices?
Never mind, too late. Voting's closed.
I didn't even see any question.
She's getting iron fist tonight.
I'm cold. Okay. All right, the changes to the request for public information policy, if you recall, were necessitated because we found that the charges that we originally had exceeded what the state statutes permitted. On research time, they only let you charge a maximum of $15 an hour for staff research, compiling, editing. Well, we don't edit, right? So, with that,
And the first hour is free, huh?
yes, it says that. Steve found that.
Yeah, I
The
don't
only,
think,
I read this over, the only thing I would say is that the second bullet here.
The first hour staff research?
Yeah, I think you should say billing will be in accordance with whatever the law is, so that we don't, if the law changes, we don't have to go and change this.
So are you suggesting that we shouldn't put in here that the first hour is free?
yeah, we
Right, I
should.
think we should just put billing will be in compliance with MSRA, blah, 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 blah.
I disagree.
Because that way if it changes, you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about keeping up with it, or someone else won't have to worry about keeping up with it every time it changes.
But then
Change the policy.
you're depending on someone to go and check that law and probably have as much trouble reading it as we all did.
No, it's
Because I
pretty
still
straightforward.
see,
Yeah,
I don't agree with you. I don't even think that's what it says.
it does. Really. Jennifer has looked at it, you looked at it, I looked at it. The other thing is that what I see routinely happening in the town clerk's office is people will look at what they understand is the fee schedule. And based on that, they will make up an invoice. So if we don't have it on here, do we run the risk that somebody gets charged for that first hour by accident?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. But I think we're in the interest of being low maintenance.
Nothing in
I don't like
government is
change,
low
do it.
maintenance.
No, you
Why
don't.
should this be any different?
But I'm okay with it if you think that somebody's gonna check the law every now and again and update this policy.
Well, it'll be this policy committee.
what are we gonna do in 10 years when we're not here? I'm not gonna do this in 10 years.
Well, if you don't submit any requests for anything to be looked up, then you won't need to be concerned.
I think it should say it, you know, I think it is expedient perhaps to just say per the law, and then no one has to look at it again. But I think there should be some place where staff can go and look and see what the policy is,
Worldwide internet.
and not have to go, again, it's due to personal interpretation of how the law reads, rather than saying what it is. Maybe what you need to do is say that this policy needs to be reviewed every year, updated every year.
That's your
In
second
accordance
policy
with
you
the law.
want it done every year.
Well, we could, next to that, in that section somewhere, we could put a reference in there to the main statute.
Yeah, I think it should reference the main statute, but I think it should,
Well,
maybe in
actually,
parentheses.
Excuse me, it does up the top, the second paragraph in the policy.
Yep.
Although the one reference there is specific to the exceptions.
Right.
Right.
The
That's very lengthy.
MRSA 1711 is the body of the statute, but paragraph, what, C2 is the exception.
Right.
Well, we could put a reference in there to the,
I just was always changing things. There's no way ever will.
I will,
We gotta sneak it back. State it up here, that's fine.
I can talk with Jennifer or the board and see if they would prefer to have that first power taken out and just a reference to the statute put in, or both. Okay.
That's your sense. My turn?
Sure.
My
Must be
which?
back.
Which?
A request which is estimated,
Right?
B. Last line.
I
of
said
the
a
warrant.
request that is estimated.
I would like which?
I'll look this up in my funkin' way, we'll see what the,
And then keep your reference. Which refers to a specific instance.
So does that thing over there. Actually, that points to our
Where is it that,
B, request that is,
Well, you can get rid of that is.
Yes, actually.
that would
we
solve
can.
the issue.
Yes.
so, and the only other thing earlier on that I changed, the original one that they signed off on just said the cost of copying public record shall be paid by the requester. So I added to that the cost of retrieving, compiling, and copy,
Okay.
which is why I made it a separate line item.
Are these underlined because you made changes, or are they you trying to
No.
emphasize the?
Just because I made changes.
Okay.
See, I knew you didn't read that.
I
remember
remember
seeing
that
that.
part. I remember that part.
Thank you.
I can remember.
I didn't want to try to dabble in redlining. I've seen what Elaine does with redlining, and I wanted to not go there.
yeah, no, but redlining is a good thing. It's just that
It is,
on
but
my
once she gets it
computer,
on, she can't get it.
it wouldn't go away.
And you know, if that
And
happened to me, I'd probably smack.
I did everything
So,
possible to change it, and everything that the instructions said, and I couldn't get it out of it.
So you probably still wouldn't know.
No, I think I finally fixed it. On my computer, it does not show, but if I were to send it to you, it would be there.
So that's why.
I think I retyped the whole
underlined it.
thing.
Well, that's one way to do it.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay.
So you're gonna talk to them about this, okay? this here.
Yes. Yeah, to see
And,
which.
I would just like you to mention that what I have against it not being in there is that I feel it leaves billing for an individual interpretation of the law. That's
Okay,
my-
for possible billing errors.
You know, and if you reference the law, then they could go and look it up to see what it is, if it's been updated or changed. But if you don't actually say what the billing should be, I think that's what they want, is they want to know exactly what is it that we can bill, and someone can go to the policy and look at it and say, okay, first hour I can't charge, and 8 hours that I worked, I can charge $15, and $1 for, you know.
Now, the state doesn't talk about what you can charge for photocopy.
They leave it up to,
Well, because everybody that has a photocopier has different monetary expenses associated with it. Whether you bought it, you leased it, you rented, you know, if you are a big volume shop, you use a lot of paper, then your cost per page is gonna be a little bit less than somebody that doesn't have. a
and so this
So-
was the amount that you had come up with. I know you were gathering all the information about the costs for toner and paper and.
Well, but I actually didn't end up with much in the way of not being a cost analyst. What happened
Plastic
was,
counting is my favorite.
oh, why didn't you tell me that before?
You know,
Michelle said, when I first asked about the, how much maintenance contract was, they said, oh, that's included with the lease. So I said, well, how much does the lease cost? It's $157 a month. So Michelle was figuring on the paper cost, it's like a penny a sheet. So Jennifer was like, well, you know, paper costs have gone up, and we haven't gone up in quite a while. So I just said, okay, we'll move 25 cents to 30 cents. They had a separate rate for deeds, and I'm not sure if deeds are legal size or are they
They're bigger.
they're bigger, yeah.
They're not 11 by 17, right? They're just,
They may have to shrink them to be 11 by 14 or
Yeah.
something, but usually they are 14 by 17 a lot of times.
Yeah, I
Whatever
think
it
they're
is.
much bigger.
Oversized, yeah.
so I added a dime to the $1.25 charge. And the other thing that I hadn't seen in here was, we didn't establish a rate before for faxing. If somebody wants
Mhm.
the material that you put together for them, fax to them, you're paying telephone charges every time you fax.
Has anybody ever done that?
I don't know.
Asked to have faxed to?
So I just threw a line item in there for it, just to see what town clerk or the board of selectmen would say.
Does their copying machine have a scanning function where they can just email it to people? I'm trying to do that too.
I imagine that it does because it is relatively new. I was there the day they were bringing it in. The other one used to break down so often, and they used to have it repairman out here twice a week, and it's still never got fixed, so they finally just replaced it. So it seems to have all the bells and whistles you could possibly, that might be available. The other thing I took out was in the one that was approved, there was a sentence there that said, fees will be assessed at the same rate as listed above, even if the individual requests documents to be forwarded via electronic means. I left that out, and they're gonna put that in, because I was thinking fax. And Jennifer was thinking email or something else.
Right.
So they're
Now-
gonna put that one back in.
If somebody asks to have this information faxed to them, do they understand that they're still gonna have to have copies made and be charged per page for the thing, even though it's faxed to them?
Well, that's why I
I
put,
mean, this,
Maybe they won't, maybe just the one
but
copy that you
I put
send.
it in here, that the,
Oh, in addition to the photocopy fee, yeah, okay.
yeah. So I think they were gonna do the first read on these two in the next week. And,
This Thursday?
Wow, we're 2 out of 3.
okay. See if there's anything else that could change. Onto the computer also? All right, on the computer use. On the policy section, on the first line, where it ends, at the end of the first line, it says by town hall users. Might we wanna consider changing that to, instead of town hall users, to say town employees, elected and appointed officials? Because we had talked about this a little bit once before, saying to the extent that we can, we wanted to have much of this apply to not just employees,
Right.
but people like us, committee people, you know, whether they're volunteer, they're appointed to something, or they're elected. The,
yeah, but we
whether
decided-
or
Yeah,
not,
that's
whether or
right.
not these information systems stay intact, you can't just make it the responsibility of employees.
Right, that's why we put users.
We were gonna put
But are
employees
people going
and
to
elected officials in. Oh, change
Understand
employee
that that users includes people like appointed officials and elected officials and,
There was somewhere where I thought, I don't remember where it was, that there was some conversation about, that you were going to make the change throughout the whole entire document and change where we had town employee to users.
Right.
And in one of my emails, I said that I thought that that was a good idea, but that I thought that we first had to establish what were,
Who are users?
yeah, what defines a user somewhere, you know, and probably in the beginning that should be done where you establish that, you know, authorized users are, you know, town employees, elected officials.
Well, we could leave it the way it is by town hall users.
Mhm.
And then the
And
next
then
sentence, we could
that
say, users include town employees, elected officials, appointed officials.
Or authorized users. Authorized users. Do you think it
Okay.
should be authorized users?
Well, if you do authorized users in the definition, you're gonna have to put authorized users everywhere. If you just define users as employees, town officials, or whatever the guy said, then you can just use users everywhere else.
And you know what? You're basically an authorized user if Jennifer gave you the password.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If they come in and use the computer, they know they're a user. I'm coming in to use the computer. I am therefore a user. But I think they would know whether or not they use
Well,
it.
somewhere we said that, that it's only, that only town employees can use it.
No, but
Right,
I
we
don't think
changed
we
it.
can say that,
We did change it.
because that eliminates Board of Selectmen. They're not employees,
Right.
they're elected officials.
Some people are appointed
So we changed that?
to users, to include elected official, appointed people, volunteers to committees.
Okay, so basically users are anybody that
So-
uses town equipment.
So this thing that you sent to us is, the changes that we made at the last meeting, the information I sent to you for
Yep, that's
personal
why it's
use.
different, yep.
And all of the town employee, words, town employee have been stricken out and replaced by users.
I'm hoping so.
No. Only
Got
town
this one?
employees, town employees.
Okay. Oh, which sec, no, the personal use? No, that was what she sent after.
Okay.
She sent that after I had done it.
Okay.
So I had to rechange hers, yep. But I
Oh,
was gonna
the-
wait until we did this.
That's
Yeah,
where
sure.
it says, under personal use in the second sentence, is only town employees are authorized as users of the town's electronic communication and information system.
But they're not.
And that's where I said that I thought that that would be one place that you should not change. In other words, you should not say only users are authorized as users. That's the one place that I thought you should leave town employees.
But they're not the only authorized users.
Well, then we should add who else is.
I
But it
just
should
took out that,
definitely
I took out
define.
that whole paragraph because I thought it was covered in the policy section above.
Well, then,
I took out personal breaks, lunch, and before and afterward last week because everybody said it was redundant.
Right.
That,
Well, as is the next, on the personal use in the second paragraph, the second sentence says personal use should never preempt work use. That essentially says the same thing. What else did I see?
electronic mail, personal use of the town, oh no, that's the town's email address, sorry. Occasional internet, occasional personal use of the internet is acceptable. That doesn't say if you're writing a letter or something.
Well, let's just read through it until we stumble over it.
well, the first line in the second paragraph under personal use doesn't belong under personal use if you're gonna keep it in. It belongs up in the policy section.
What does?
The first line of the second paragraph under personal use. If you're gonna leave that in, it shouldn't be under personal use, it should be up under the policy.
But I don't think it's accurate to say only town employees are authorized users.
Right, so are we striking that, or are we leaving it?
Because we all
Oh, yeah, I agree.
agree that you have employees and you have other people that are authorized users of the town equipment.
And so where are we going to say who is, who are users? Or do we
I guess-
feel like we don't
I
need
guess,
to
yes, I
say
mean,
that?
that's my take on it. Because you, well, if you have to have a password to get access at all, or do we have a situation where if somebody comes in and they're, you know, a friend, a relative, and they're waiting for somebody, can they just sit down and log on and go to their email or do something?
I thought-
You don't need a password for
I
that.
thought it said no, that they couldn't do that.
No.
No, I'm just saying, could that
If somebody's
situation?
kid comes in on a
happen?
snow day,
Yeah,
would the person that's responsible for the computer be responsible for whatever that other person did? If they came in and looked at the wrong things on the internet, would that come back on the person who let them use the computer?
I don't think I'd want to try to make that stick to somebody, because chances are, if you have somebody with time on their hands and they're waiting for somebody, that person they're waiting for is busy doing something else and not able to pay attention.
Then that person shouldn't be on the computer.
Right. Well, I suppose it's, you know, maybe it's overkill, but there's probably no harm in saying,
Defining who a user is?
yeah, make it the second sentence after this policy governs the use, and just say users include town employees, elected officials.
Appointed.
I wouldn't say necessarily officials, because we're appointed.
Selectmen are an elected official.
Right. Or just say elected officials and appointees, that covers everything.
Okay.
Whether you're appointed to a committee or you're appointed to be
Okay.
the next road superintendent. Will that do?
Yep.
Is that okay?
Just to move it up here, but still have a place where we're defining what a user is? Who,
No, this defines a user. We're gonna, on the first sentence, we'll end with the first sentence will look like it does now.
Right.
By town hall users, and then we'll go on to say, users include, or users are defined as
Yeah, I like that.
town employees, elected officials,
And appointed.
and appointees. Is there anybody else you can, any other category or label you would want to use for who's unauthorized user?
and I can't think of any that would be.
I try to be as bland and generic as possible so that we don't have a laundry list.
That has to be changed.
Yeah, we create a new title, then you, would that work?
Right, so line in the second paragraph and inserting the second line in the first paragraph. Right?
Yeah.
Now you need the personal use part, should never bring in word use and all that.
I thought that was in here somewhere. Because I know I
I
had
guess,
to take
I
it
guess
out.
I'd leave it alone until we come across it and see
Okay.
which place it's better off in, and appropriate.
It sounds like it's appropriate in the personal use section. Same says personal use, you don't grant word use.
I know, but if that's something that's applies to everything,
Yeah.
then maybe it goes in the policy section. You don't wanna have to repeat it under each
Yes.
section.
Absolutely.
And isn't this part under the software and hardware section?
Well, we'll get to
Yes,
it.
download software, hardware, screensavers,
Yeah.
which is not going to specifically approved, may not be compliant and operated. So would you see that one?
Third paragraph, any software must be downloaded by
Yeah, I
the
should think we should be able to get rid of that paragraph. That's covered under the software, the third paragraph under personal use
Is the same as the third paragraph
Covered.
under software.
is covered by the third paragraph under software, hardware, games, and screensavers.
Under
Which policy, which paragraph under personal use?
Third paragraph under personal use
Employees are not authorized?
to use connected own equipment.
is all covered under the software, hardware, games, and screensavers section of the next
Download software, hardware, screensavers, toolbars,
Right.
keyboard, music and music clips or other equipment which has not been specifically approved in writing by the office manager may compromise the integrity of the town's computer system and prohibited.
Essentially saying the same thing.
I move to strike the third paragraph.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's personal use is the section. And is someone gonna look there to see what their personal use is going to be, or are they gonna go look under software and hardware?
Well,
They're gonna need to
then we
read
should take it out
the
of the
entire,
software, hardware, we shouldn't have it in two places.
Not necessarily. I don't agree with you.
I totally disagree,
I never write policy and procedures with the same thing in more than one place.
because it's gonna get messed up somewhere.
Yeah, for that reason.
If you all agree it should be under software hardware, leave it there. I think it should be
But what
whatever
happens
the-
if you only change one and not the other?
Well, it's, I think it's personally, I think it's actually saying, all software and hardware required for employees to perform their job will be provided by the town. Employees are not authorized to use or connect their own equipment. And so instead of equipment, you have hardware.
Yes, see.
Such as digital cameras, DVAs, their cell phones, and we decided that doesn't need to be explained.
We took all that out just in case.
Can I ask when that
Some-
happened?
Last meeting.
Yeah.
Because we were concerned that by putting essentially an itemized list in here of everything that's possible,
They're gonna say, you didn't say that.
Apple and the rest of them, 6 months from now, we're gonna have a few new toys.
Right.
So if you're a computer user that's had any training at all, you know what software, what hardware, right? So some of it's for business and some of it's personal. Under the, in the personal use portion here, would it help if we left in the first sentence, it says employees not authorized to use and connect their own equipment? Without all their own equipment, and then direct them to this section?
If you guys feel it should be omitted completely, I mean, I don't take offense to it. I may not agree with it, but if you all three agree it should be omitted, then let's omit it. If you feel it's already covered somewhere else, and that's where someone would look for that information.
One of the things about writing a policy as opposed to trying to do a library, file a library book or something, you can't file it or report both numerically and alphabetically to make sure it's in the same place. If you have the same sentence or the same intention in several different places, someone somewhere along the line is going to make a change to one of these and not to the other. You have to have as much minimal stuff as you can, the least amount you can get away with in a policy.
The other thing is, if you put them in two places, they're not verbatim the same, then somebody perceives one differently than the other sentence.
Wouldn't break it.
My pen.
Put it back together. Two spaces there. Or is it just one space?
I can't tell.
Well, it wouldn't be all that redundant if we, on personal use, on paragraph 3, if we just left the sentence to say, employees are not authorized to use or connect their own equipment to town-owned equipment without prior approval from the office manager. I mean, that to me doesn't sound repetitious to what we have in the software, hardware, games, and screensavers.
Under software, it says, is that what it's under, software and equipment?
Which,
The information that you're saying is now under personal should be under software, hardware, games, and screensavers.
Download software, that's why we called it just software or hardware, so that would include everything.
So we're saying if we take out the such as, because that's current today, but 6 months from now, there's gonna be, some of those might be so ancient that they're not even talked about anymore, like floppy disks.
you still have mine.
So let's not specify. Saying you get software, you get hardware, equipment. You know we're not talking about telephones.
That's one of those things, that's why we're gonna put the main state law down, so if it changes, we don't have to worry about it. If you put just software or hardware, that covers anything Bill
Yeah.
Gates can
Yeah.
come up with.
Any of the geniuses.
Firmware, I don't know what that is.
Maybe,
Don't wanna know
maybe
what that
some
is.
of us don't have a need to know.
That's right. You don't wanna know. The other thing, reading this, the only thing we've actually talked about is like internet access. What happens if they're typing, let's say, a letter to someone or something, and they don't get done with it, and they want to finish it off tomorrow or whatever, you know, something comes up at work and they can't do it.
Yeah.
There's a shared drive. Are they allowed to save any of the personal documentation to a shared drive, or do they have to save that somewhere else?
shared drives generally understood to be just for business?
I would think so, yeah.
Okay, then maybe under personal use, we
Is
should
that the
say
S
something
drive?
about.
You
Yes.
talk about an S drive in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's for shared.
Also system.
I don't know, mine disappeared. I got it back today, no light went on right there.
I think it's on the story.
Oh, it is, yeah. The first paragraph of the story talks about the town's S drive. In that, I know I'm jumping ahead here, but we'll get to it. Do we want to say that the S drive is for town business only?
That would be
Is that-
fine,
I
but,
think that's better than what I was
Yeah.
thinking. I was thinking we want to put some storage of personal documents in the C drive or something.
oh no, just not on the S drive.
I like Elaine's idea
What if they've got their little kids' little league schedule up there, or
there. It is.
they're not allowed to input the floppy disk?
Well, they're at the drive center, they're not allowed to put it.
Oh, I see, okay.
Someday it's gonna be, wow, we can't buy those anymore.
You can't buy them
Well,
there.
I can't, but I've got 1,000 of them. You guys need it.
Usually,
We'll sell 'em.
he's got those 5-inch floppies if anybody needs, whatever.
I need some 8-inch.
Isn't it awful
You have
how
an 8-inch
quickly
floppy
the
disk?
equipment can
Yeah.
be
Isn't it
obsolete?
That's how they make all their money.
Okay, so we're gonna put that in the storing part,
So what the S drive is for,
town business
business
only,
only.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think we want to go so far as to pick another drive, so you can put personal
No.
stuff on there,
Right,
it's just
right.
not go there.
that's why I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. I was just gonna
And-
say, should not be stored on the S drive. You know, personal information should not be stored on the S drive, but that's fine.
Okay.
If you wanna do it.
What catches the attention more?
Well, I think if you put it on the storing and say the S drive is for town business only, I think it's more official. Don't you?
Yeah.
How about you? Elaine?
Now, let's go back to this first section.
It's time to stand up.
You took your jacket off like a stand up.
Right. And have a little parade around the chair thing. All right, and then. Oh, in the first paragraph, computers provided by the town offices, in the town offices.
Which one are you doing?
I'm still a personal use.
Okay.
Computers provided, we need to say in the town, for town business?
I thought we had that somewhere.
Did, well,
The first paragraph under computer policies, all communication systems, equipment, software, and information transmitted by or stored in these systems are the property of the town.
yeah. So perhaps we don't need that first sentence under personal use the way it is right
I
now.
don't think so.
And on the second sentence, while the town can reasonably understand, how about if it just said, while the town understands that an employee may
No, you
need.
can't use that. You can't use that.
Don't be mimicking her in all things, please.
while the town can understand an employee's needs.
We can, if you can just say, well, the town understands.
I don't like while.
Well, there is a reason for why. It's just, you know,
Oh, okay, I got
if you
you.
keep
Okay,
reading, I
yep.
didn't like it at first either, I kept reading.
Yep, you're right.
And I would say may needs, or may have occasion.
Are we getting rid of the first one?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just the first sentence. And info should be written out. The usage must not be
Conducted?
conducted, performed, done.
That's where
I don't
you
think-
said, that's where you said it was repeated again. The second sentence says, personal use must take place during non-work hours, breaks, lunch hours, before or after work. That's where use must,
Okay.
and done during the employee's scheduled work time, so it's repetitive in that it's already in the second sentence, in the second paragraph.
Yeah, but
It's
personal
just-
use should never preempt work use, personal use takes
Mhm.
place, yeah. Well, do you want to retain the sentence that says personal use should not preempt work use and must take place during non-work hours, and take out a couple of sentences in the first paragraph? Or do you want to just,
I think we could probably just remove the whole first paragraph.
right, we can do it there.
Well,
I like the last sentence.
The controls are necessary, yeah, I do.
and the one from last time said the town recognizes personal uses occurs. You know. I think that can be removed too. It's going to occur.
Well, that's just a reiteration of,
Yeah, that's what we
Yes.
had the problem with, was, are you just gonna point blank say, we know you're gonna use it for
Yeah.
personal use? But
well, it's apparently accepted here. What I got copied of
Yeah.
Jennifer. You don't want to flat out say you can't do it because they are doing it, and they're gonna continue to do
Right, I
it.
mean, I think it's a,
If it doesn't, have to work, then, okay.
but you can't, if you take out everything, you can't just leave that last sentence.
No, I know.
Doesn't make context.
We'll take out the
So is there
second
something
paragraph
under,
and leave
under the first section that says that? Personal use must take place. Control the necessary to protect the town's electronic
It
communications.
says done during the employee's scheduled work time. That says it. A non-work hour.
What's it say?
Yeah.
Third line down, the usage must not be abused or done during the employee's scheduled work time and must be done within the bounds of all town policies.
So that's kind of the same thing as saying personal use should not preempt work.
Right. But if we get rid of the preempt work one, we
Yeah.
can keep the controls are necessary.
Yeah, again,
The only problem I have with that sentence is that it sounds awkward. It says the usage must not be abused or done during the employee's scheduled work time. It just sounds awkward.
well, we don't, I think we ought to change abused, because then that says that you can do it as long as you're not abusing it, and when, the word abuse is open to great perception. Your perception of what's abused and mine might be totally different,
Right.
you know? So if you take out the word abuse and just say it's not permitted during an employee's scheduled work time, would that fit? If you took out abused and changed done to permitted?
So I thought we were removing
So it's gonna say the usage is not permitted during the employee scheduled work.
personal usage.
Yeah.
So you gotta put
So
the
we're
word personal in
removing
there.
the whole first sentence. Research info about an employee needs to occasionally research info, that's all gone.
No,
No,
No? We took out, wow,
We took out computers provided in town offices, are provided for town business. And if we said the town understands that occasional if we took out research information, if we just said occasional personal use,
yeah.
so we're putting in that?
No.
No?
Well,
Well,
the
I
town
didn't-
can
I
reasonably
didn't say that.
understand
I know.
that
I didn't say that.
it's to occasionally, it's occasional personal use. I get rid of or send, receive a personal email too, because that's personal use.
right, yeah, you don't. Whether it's looking up something on the internet, sending an email, we don't
Right.
really care, it's all personal use.
Okay, so the town can reasonably understand if an employee needs occasional personal use. Well, that sounds pretty bad too. Well, the town can reasonably understand if an employee.
We're taking out reasonably.
Okay.
While the town understands that employees may need to occasionally
How about
use
may,
town equipment
may
for
need to
personal-
have personal use? May need
to
personal
use the
usage?
equipment for personal use.
Needs the equipment for personal use.
Yeah. Understand, comma, usage. The usage must not preempt work use.
Say it one more time. All the
Well, the
town understands.
can understand that.
No, I get rid of that. Or that. While the town can understand that employee needs equipment for personal use occasionally.
For occasional personal use.
may need to use equipment for personal use.
The usage must not preempt
I like your,
business.
Well, I've got too many changes.
yeah, I know, that's why. All right, let's put it in here. While the
The
town,
town
yeah,
can understand, and that's what remains.
understand. Ellen, what comes after understand?
While the town understands an employee may need to use equipment for personal use. The usage must not preempt town business.
employees
Says it-
scheduled work time.
Does it, yeah. Do we need to still maintain, and must be done within the bounds of all town policies?
I prefer to leave that in.
Yeah,
It's sort of a caveat, catch-all.
now that makes for a really long sentence. Do you wanna put a period and start a new one, or just keep going? And
Must be
must be
done.
done within the bounds.
So no, we get rid of the whole second paragraph, right?
Yep. Town policy. All right, and we're keeping the controls.
Yeah.
Yes. Controls are necessary to protect the town's.
Can we take out the second and? Controls are necessary to prevent use of this privilege?
Prevent use or abuse?
Abuse, yeah, abuse.
Yeah.
Controls are necessary to protect the town's electronic communication and from abuse.
No, I think they're two different things. They're trying to protect the equipment.
Okay.
with that.
And prevent use. Prevent to. Okay. All right. Yep.
So on the fourth paragraph, on personal use, it says town employees.
User.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
No user. If there is a question, could just be questions. Or-
Yeah.
And after whether a use is appropriate, comma, it should be forwarded in writing to the office manager for a determination.
Well, wait, you're gonna change it to questions about whether use is appropriate. Then we need to reword that.
Is it just
It should
easier
be-
to leave the if there and put the comma in?
I think it would be easier to get rid of the comma in the word. It questions about whether a use is appropriate should be forwarded in writing to the office manager for determination.
Yes,
To get rid of it.
Yep.
it's on.
All right, everything else was already decided on, right?
I don't know, I just wanted everybody to check to make sure I did all the changes. I think I crossed it out.
Excuse me.
On electronic mail, the third paragraph, the second sentence where it says never transmit an email that you would not want other users to read, or that would be, or that you would be embarrassed to see in a newspaper. That's.
Never transmit an email you would be embarrassed to see in the newspaper. Take out the part of the section that you, and that's how you would say it. Never transmit an email you would be embarrassed to see in the newspaper. You want a which?
That sounded better to me.
It's
In this
not that,
instance.
it's a winch.
All right, tell me, what's, how
If
do
you
I
were-
know?
If you were talking about that thing you saw on
An
the
item, yeah.
there was a specific item.
Yeah,
The other one is which you, that one's hard to do. It's that table, or it's that thing, it's, the other words go,
goes with, noun.
yes. So I can do which you would.
Why would
Would you
you want to
would?
put them in? You ever transmit an email, you'd be embarrassed to see in the newspaper.
She wants a that in there.
I just thought it sounded more correct.
The first line, that should, the users should do it.
We need to get an English major on this committee.
And the users in the last line should be capital U.
Last one?
The last line of the same paragraph.
Oh.
And in the
yep,
last paragraph too.
Small u.
No, capital.
Oh, yep. No, it is a small, that's what I'm looking for, a small
Oh.
u. Yep.
Now, do we want to say newspaper or,
It's a newspaper. When's the last time you saw a newspaper?
I threw one in the trash tonight.
No, that was an ad.
I didn't throw it in the trash, I recycled it.
Keep my newspaper right next to my typewriter.
Look at the baseball weekly.
That's it. That's what I'm trying to do.
have a transmitted email? Viewed by the public.
So we're taking out embarrassed in the newspaper and putting viewed by the public.
Have a transmitted email.
You would not want the public to view. My mother's not an email.
That's the rule of thumb and everything.
Oh, wouldn't want your mother to see?
That's right.
Yeah, let's just cross the whole thing off and put, never transmit an email you would not want to be public, you would not want
To be made
publicized.
Publicized.
To be made public.
That,
That. Would not want publicized. Made public.
That means no tweeting, no twitting, no,
Stop right there.
I know where I was going with
no
it.
texting.
That seems to be more for this time of year, yes. Notwithstanding.
Did we decide under software, hardware, games, and screensavers to remove or add, will be provided and installed? Did we decide we were gonna add that by the time?
Where did we say that it's provided?
On the first
To do it.
sentence, under software, hardware, games, and screensavers, I have a note from, I think it's from the last one, and it says to add and install.
I don't have that
Will be
note.
provided and installed by the town request. By the town, period.
Or why don't we just say
Did
install?
you have that? No?
Why don't we just say install? I mean, is that kind of a no-brainer?
Well, provided it's installed, you know. It's- They set it on your desk, it doesn't do you any good
Right.
unless it's installed. People are splitting hairs.
So do you want me to put it in?
Well, we could say provided and installed because
I
then
thought we made that change, I have it
we
written
did talk
down.
about it, yeah. Then you don't have any handymen coming along and saying, oh, yeah, I do that, I'll install that for you.
What about that guy?
What guy?
No, I think it
Jennifer
says somewhere
Duffy
else.
guy.
They pay him.
Is he a town employee?
He's a vendor.
Oh, should we put vendors down there?
Wait,
Under user?
No. 'cause you
No.
Because of the copy, the guy's a vendor too.
Okay.
And
But can't he put, doesn't he sometimes do things for
Yes.
Jennifer if she's on vacation and something breaks and he's gotta install it or whatever?
Well, whether she's on vacation or not, you know, if something needs to be repaired, replaced, they buy a new piece of equipment,
And who installs
fix
it?
an old one. This vendor guy that they buy it from.
So should we, I'm asking, should we put him in there?
No, because he doesn't
Is he-
work for the town, he's an outside vendor.
Right, so is he allowed to
According to our
install
policy,
things?
he's not
According
allowed to
to
do
our
it.
policy, right, he's not allowed to install anything.
Oh, you are reaching.
No, I'm serious, I mean, he does things here, she mentioned him, that he did, you know.
You can't make anybody from outside your company adhere to your internal policies and procedures. I don't care. if
I'm
it's
just
a-
asking,
if
is he
it's-
allowed to
If it's
install
a bank
things?
or an insurance company or, if you operate an insurance agency and you need a new computer or one is up for repair and the vendor brings it back and fixes it, he's gotta reinstall it. You buy a new one, he or she is gonna install that. They are not subject to that company's,
Right, but I want this person who's sitting at the desk with the new computer coming in, knowing that this person is allowed to do it. Even if you just put a line that says special dispensation for outside vendors or new whatever. I just didn't know if we needed to put that in, because it's not just general. I was just curious.
I
If you
don't,
wanted to include them or not.
I don't think an outside vendor is subject to town policies.
I'm not asking him to follow the policy, I'm asking the employee to follow the policy. This guy comes in with a new computer,
Install this
says,
on
I'm
your
gonna
computer."
install this. Am I going to let him if the policy says only by the town?
I would think if you're sitting at a desk and somebody's bringing something in from repair or new, you will be told by your supervisor that the new computer's coming today.
Okay,
Or the old one's back from the shop, they'll be bringing it in today.
okay, so
So I-
you don't have to say anything
I
about that.
wouldn't think so.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay?
Yep.
You sure?
Or,
Where?
next time.
Oh.
All right. Was there anything else in the software hardware?
No,
Okay. All right, down to storing and transferring documents. We said we're gonna add a sentence that says the S drive is for town business only.
Beginning, end, where do you want it?
Right after the, this drive.
That's
right,
Sentence
yeah.
there.
Only town.
Yeah.
Stored on the S drive?
Sure.
Well,
Okay. And
you wouldn't even have to say stored because it says stored on the S drive in the preceding sentence. So if this is the next sentence to it, it's gonna just flow. I mean, you can put it in, but you might then read it and go, oh,
right.
we're repeating the same words, two sentences in a row.
I had, the S drive is for town business only.
That's what I wrote too.
we were gonna add that?
Great. Yes, see what I'm showing.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
S drive is for
Yeah.
town business
So
only.
it'll be the second sentence in the first paragraph.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And 1, 2, 3, 4 fourth paragraph in that section, on the last line,
It needs an or.
yeah,
In the column.
check with your supervisor, take out the comma, put in or the office manager.
Yep.
Anything on the last paragraph of the storing and transferring?
Here's another, personal use of the internet during non-work hours is permitted.
Where is it?
She's
First
under the
line.
internet.
Oh, I thought that's what we were doing.
No, we're talking about the last paragraph of story.
It says transferring data and
Oh,
documents.
we're still
between-
doing that?
No, I'm just asking if anybody had anything else on that last one. Okay. All right, now we're at the internet. I didn't have any notations on that. You must have beaten this to death before.
Yeah, we can be like the,
But the third paragraph starts off with personal use is permitted.
Well, I think the reason that that's there is because they're now gonna say, don't go to these sites and stuff.
Okay,
Personal use is permitted during non-work hours.
gotcha. Just want to make sure.
Okay. Anything else in the internet section? Nope. Onto passwords, etc.
The only change I had noted from last time was the lock the workstation misaligned.
Lock your workstation whenever you are out of the
That's the
office.
presentation I had from last time.
Employee signature. Oh, on the, that employee signature?
I just threw those in so that you would know there were three and how they would fit on there.
Right, my thought was though, where we're asking the employee to sign, it says, I have received and read the above policy. It goes on to say, disciplinary action including revocation of system privileges or termination. Should be termination of employment to be, I don't want them thinking we might, not me, the town might terminate some function of theirs. We're talking about employment.
Now, is this employee signature date, is that two different things, the employee signature and the date, or is that the date the employee signed the,
It's the day the employee signs it.
where's the employee signature?
There's gonna be a long.
Well-
I just put those in to fill, to show how it's gonna look.
Yeah,
And we're
then
all
you could
done.
move date over to the right.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And put a line
Okay.
there and all.
okay, so
that
there's two
stuff.
different things, it's employee
Yes.
signature and date.
Yep.
not Employee
Right.
signature date.
Right.
And you're gonna take out that thing that says board of selectmen signature page?
Well, I thought the last time we left it,
Oh,
we're gonna have all the signatures put together. And yeah, Jennifer does all that anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
okay,
I'm not,
I'll leave, all right.
You say signature?
no.
Stop looking for trouble.
That's what it's confirmed.
Graceful lecture. Is that after the software's been to the gym for 6 weeks?
Who took software to the gym for 6 weeks and left
It made it
back?
firmware.
Oh,
Cleaned it up.
all right. Is it done?
It is.
Okay. I think we did the personnel policy last time we did this.
What?
The
Personnel
personnel policy?
No,
2 or 3 years,
that
wasn't
was
it?
a year and a half.
Oh, you're thinking of the drug policy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There it is.
That's right, that's what.
That isn't even done really, is it?
No, they've done the whole thing.
I think we'll call it a night. Thank you.
Cut